Hey everybody, welcome to Earth Revolution 2012. I am your host Susan Shan, and we are the home of the green scene here in Nashville, Tennessee. And today I am with three very cool people. This is Paul Campanis. Hey Paul.
Hi.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored. Melanie Campanis.
Hi.
And their daughter Sophia. And Paul, Melanie, and Sophia have a farm here that they call Permavations, and I'm going to let them explain most of it, but it's really cool. It's a permacultural farm, and they're creating all kinds of interesting products, and they're helping to teach people how to really, truly live sustainably. And Paul, tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure. I have a education in finance, business, and an MBA, and I'm currently the president of three companies, two of which I own. One is the Nashville Area Beekeepers, and the other is Minnehaha Incorporated, which is the parent company for Permavations, which is the operation that Susan described here on the farm in Nashville. And then Info Innovations, which is a technology company serving the needs of businesses in the Middle Tennessee area.
You do so much. I don't know how you find time for it all. And Melanie, you have a background in linguistics, but you're also a sort of an expert in herbs.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I have a little herb garden that's got like about 30 herbs in it currently, and I love working with them, you know, making tinctures and incorporating them in crafts, but mainly like medicinally and even like in the kitchen making infusions as well. I like to make teas out of my herbs. So.
Wow. So I definitely want to take a look at that. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about a variety of things during this show, and I guess let's start with this table that we're sitting on right here that you made in your wood shop.
Actually, an assistant of mine made the table, and it is from local wood. It's from cedar, which is really a very prevalent wood here in Middle Tennessee. It's eastern red cedar, but the tree was misnamed. It's really juniper. It's really properly named eastern red juniper. And this table is quite artistically made. If you see the legs, how they're fitted together, and the table is what's called a book match, where this left pane is a mirror copy of the right pane. And so what our wood does is it gives a lot of opportunity for local artists to embellish the materials and make one-of-a-kind pieces like what you see here.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you also, your kitchen table and some other things in your house, I know have been made by you or by people you're working with. So in addition to all the other things that Paul does, this is a really important part of your business here. He gets a lot of recycled wood, and he's going to explain more about where he gets that and how and what he does with it. And then we're going to take a look in the woodworking lab. But first, just tell me a little bit about where you get your wood and how you recycle that.
Sure. In Nashville here, we have maybe 500 square miles of houses and urban area. And in that urban area, there are a lot of trees planted among the houses. Well, from time to time, we have windstorms, we have disease. This tree here got hit by lightning, but it's a very big walnut tree.
Yeah.
And typically this tree would go into a dump, into a landfill.
Yeah.
And so I negotiate with the homeowner or the tree company to have the delivery diverted to my place, to my sawmill. Sometimes I go out and buy the logs if they're very high quality. And so this log that I'm sitting on is just a vast amount of raw materials. And every raw material that we use locally doesn't have to be transported, and it doesn't result in a tree being cut in the forest, which of course is deforestation, which is a big ecological problem. I'm a real tree hugger and a tree lover. I don't cut any of my trees on my farm here. I manicure them and take care of them like they're vegetables in a garden. And so what we have here is a very valuable piece of wood that would otherwise be thrown away, valuable in the right hands. And so we will put this on a sawmill, and I'll show you some of the other processes. And over here we have another load that came from a little bit south of us. And these are white oak, a very wonderful wood for any woodworker. White oak is the wood that's typically used in food, in and around food, like for wine casks, for whiskey casks, for beer barrels, that kind of thing. It's great for cutting boards, for countertops, and of course the walnut's just an amazing wood. It's just one of the best woods we have. And what people don't realize in Nashville is we have some of the best hardwood in the world. When they came to Nashville in the 1890s to clear cut this place, and they did clear cut most of it, they said it was the best hardwood in the world. And then after World War II, what we saw is a lot of people went into the cities, into the factories to make a living. And all these trees grew up. And so we have about 70 years of great hardwood trees growing up in these old abandoned agricultural operations in Nashville and then and around the houses. And so this is just a tremendous blessing, and it really took me a while to understand it and figure it out, but we've really been able to make use of these fantastic materials.
Yeah.
What we have up there is a big pile of what it looks like wood chips, but what that is really is pine tree. And you see, because we're doing a lot of food and we have a lot of weeds coming in and we want to mulch, but we can't use the dyed mulches and the mulches with inorganic compounds in them because they could be hazardous. You don't want to put something like that on your asparagus or your blueberries because you might be ingesting some carcinogen.
Right, so
and so
be untreated.
Right,
Yeah.
so we've also tried to divert some of the waste products here into an organic mulch.
That's pretty impressive sawmill you got there, Paul.
Thank you, Susan.
So what do you do on here?
Well, what happened about 6 years ago, I bought some property, about 10 acres up on the hill here, and I needed to put a fence around it. And the fence was going to cost about $40,000 just for the wood. And so what I thought to myself, well, I could use some of these trees, and that we get from the tree companies. And I had some tree work done around the house that I picked up over there. And I thought I could put them on the sawmill and cut them in fence boards and defray the cost. And wow, was I ever right.
Yeah.
We built the fence, and it's been standing now for 5 or 6 years. We have a lot of animals in there. And but one of the things that really kind of came to light as we were doing that is that we have some amazing wood here in Tennessee. Yeah. The best in the world, I would arguably the best in the world. And so we have used all kinds of trees to make all kinds of different things, which I'll go into more detail later on. But it's a vast resource, and this machine enables us to utilize. And as you can see over here, we have all this juniper wood and poplar wood, all cut into boards, all very useful for art and for all sorts of things. And everything here is utilized. The sawdust is used for all kinds of artistic purposes, such as Reiki pottery.
Okay.
A lot of people will go camping and use the sawdust as part of the sanitary facilities, temporary, and all sorts of uses in compost and things like that.
Now, what exactly is Reiki pottery?
That is a pottery that is fired using sawdust in a hole in the ground. It's a very ancient method of working with clay and firing clay.
Okay. And so with the sawmill, you can kind of cut things to whatever length and width and whatnot
Right.
that you need, yeah,
Exactly.
for whatever the project happens to be.
Right, and then we'll dry the wood in the barn, which is behind us,
Okay.
and then it'll be useful for any kind of art or woodworking.
Let's take a look inside the wood shop and see what some of the projects are that you're working on.
Sure, I'd love to show you.
All right. This place is amazing, Paul. You've obviously built a lot of this yourself, and can you tell me a little bit about the shop?
Sure. The shop was built just about entirely with wood from the sawmill. It started as a timber frame, as you can see by the big beams, and if you notice on the floor, there is 2-inch thick hardwood which is doweled in. And I needed the hardwood floors because of my knees, as I'm 50 something now, and I don't want to be working on cement. Most people told me to pour pad. They said, pour pad, oh, pour pad.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't want to pour pad because my poor knees will die. And I'll be only, instead of being out here for 1 hour, or for 5 hours, I'll only be out here for 1 hour because my knees will be hurting, my back will be hurting. And
This is actually easy.
yeah, this is actually a lot better. And everyone who's worked in here with me has noticed, such as people like my father-in-law and other people have noticed that it's very easy ergonomically on the body because of the wooden floor.
It's kind of pliable.
Yeah.
You can feel that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And behind me we have some cabinets built from the local wood. This is ash right here. It's an old growth ash that was taken down in a local neighborhood here. It had died standing up. And then we have a walnut border, and here we have the bee handle drawers right here.
Okay.
And if you notice, it's a bit subtle, but the person who made these with me, he actually did all the work, a fellow named Tom. Each pane matches the other pane. So if you stand back in the room, it's a mirror copy of everything's a mirror.
Wow.
And you can pick up like the flame here is matched to the flame over there, and it's all very meticulously done.
Wow, a lot of thought put into that.
These are the
It's
kinds
like an
of
art form.
these are we attract a lot of artists. If you wonder who likes to come to the Sawmill, they're people that are very, very creative and artistic, and they do things with their hands. They have these inspirational ideas to make things out of wood, and they find the raw materials here, and we're very we really cater to that. We're not really the kind of sawmill that can compete on volume or sell thousands of boards of all one kind. We don't really want to build fences and things like that, although I did at the beginning. Those are most of my mistakes on the fences as I learned the Sawyer trade. And so what we have here is a shop that we can make a lot of different products in, and we're in the process of patenting some products that we're making and coming up with different woodworking machines that can actually mill the wood into round shapes, and where we want to have big round dowels with threads and things that can go into modular furniture, and just a lot of ideas just keep coming to us, and we keep acting on them and developing those products in here, and you can see them on our website and things like that. So.
Let me ask you a question. When you say we, who is the we? Like, how many people come in here and actively use this, and are they partners, employees? How do you have these relationships with people that use the shop?
Right. We have a couple of we have one part-time person that helps out quite a bit, but we have artists. It's sort of like a support group for chronic woodworkers. They just sort of come. And they have ideas.
I'm a woodworker.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Paul. I'm a woodworker. I've been making sawdust for 25 years. But we have this whole community of people that just sort of come here. They show up. They call. Usually they make an appointment to see something. But a lot of them are my friends, and they'll come by on a Saturday or Sunday morning and just hang out with us.
Okay, so you don't actually like rent the space to them, or you just kind of let them use it. Probably gives you a lot of good ideas too.
Yeah, we share a lot of ideas, and they're very creative people, and they want to really exercise that talent they have.
Yeah, and for anybody just tuning in, I want to re-emphasize the fact that most, if not all, of the wood that Paul is using in this shop is waste wood that would otherwise go in a landfill, and that's a really important aspect of what you do. Yeah. You're not cutting down trees. He's actually taking trees that would otherwise be just unused.
Right. Here we have a sunflower patch, which you see, most people in their yard, they just like to have grass, but I came out here one day with the inspiration that I was going to put sunflowers down, and they serve a lot of purposes. They're a really good antidepressant. I mean, how could you be depressed by looking at that?
That's
so
true.
Everyone that comes to my house, and they might be a little down, they might want to come and complain about something, they see my sunflowers, and they want to tell me a happy story. And so everyone's happy.
It's that easy.
It's that easy. So what we see here is a tremendous amount of Prozac on steroids, if you will. But what you'll notice in my yard is that there's just a lot of things going on. And one thing that I discovered when I stopped mowing the lawn, now I have a 5-foot mower over here that I could get on at any time and conquer the whole thing if I wanted to. But what I noticed is we had a lot of insects. We had a lot of wildlife. We had mice, we had snakes, we had insects, all these things which are forbidden and bad things.
Bad things.
You can't have these things in your yard.
Biodiversity, must have monocrops and no insects.
So what happens if you walk into my yard, you're immediately overcome with ants. Like, look at the ants on this. I don't know if you can see this, but there's ants all over the back of this. There's little butterflies. There's a spider here. I don't know if you can see this. There's bugs everywhere. Yeah, a little jumping spider right there. Yep.
Tiny little thing.
And so what happens is all these bugs come in, and there's just plethora of wildlife coming in, and we have a tremendous amount of birds. Yeah. A vast amount of just bird life. Yeah. And if you go over to some of the other yards around here where they run the zero turn, it's totally dead. Right. There's not a single bug, not a single insect. There are no birds. And then you immediately get to my fence and you see all this activity.
Yours is the buffet.
Yeah.
Your yard is the buffet.
You know, when I first noticed it, Susan, when I was on the tractor and I was riding around conquering my piece of earth, like every man should, and I looked down and there's just millions of bugs around the tractor, and it didn't really dawn on me right away, but every time I get off the tractor there'd be these millions and millions of bugs, and I was like the Holocaust guy, you know, I was just going through and just hammering them. and those blades, those 3 blades in the 5-foot swath, and I just
must get rid of the bugs. Yeah.
yeah, bugs and snakes and turtles. We have lots of turtles. But if you can't see now, but if you were to turn around and look out here, you'd see birds just flying everywhere. And that's what I was missing out on. And I think what really got me going on it was the bees.
Yeah.
Because bees are insects.
Yes.
See, but bees are good insects. You know, all insects are bad, right? But bees are good. And so what happened is I said, well, the bees need flowers. And here I am mowing down all the flowers. Right. And it's really interesting in a landscape to see what volunteers, to see what comes out and just does things. And we get a lot of volunteers. A lot of the volunteers are edible. A lot of these plants, like when I have my garden, when I finish my garden, a lot of the plants will quote, go to seed. Well, you know, those seeds come back next year. Right. And you will be amazed at the blessings that will fall on you if you stop mowing your lawn.
Yeah. Well, and the wildflowers are food for the bees and they're food for the other insects. And so, you know, just to allow them to flourish, you know, is providing that sanctuary and that insectiary and, you know, that habitat for those insects, which will in turn bring the beautiful birds.
That's right.
So yeah, again, just looking at patterns in nature and letting them be.
And I'm thankful that I'm not under a homeowner's agreement. I'm zoned here agriculturally, and I did have the city send me a threatening letter one time, and I talked to the guy on the phone, and he said that I was within my rights because I'm zoned agricultural. But the poor person who buys, like I could have easily bought a house in a subdivision, and I would be prevented from doing all that I'm doing.
Right.
And so I'm very thankful for that I don't have neighbors, you know, that are really upset by it.
Yeah.
But that is a big problem for people, is they don't have the freedom to experiment with their grass.
Right.
And they have to have it a certain way, or they're going to get evicted by their homeowners association.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful I'm not under those mandates.
Yeah.
Okay, what we have here is it's an innovation that we have just come up with. It's a particular kind of breeder hive. And what's going on here is the bees on the box in the back are constrained. They don't have enough real estate to do what bees need to do. So what they're doing right now is they're getting ready to swarm. And this is a natural process with which bees reproduce when they swarm. And so they're all flying around here, and then they're going to settle probably on these sunflowers over here, and we'll be able to catch them and make a new colony with the boxes that you see behind, well, that we'll show you behind later here. And this hive is very close to the house, maybe about 30, 40 feet. And the reason it's so close is because it can pollinate the whole herb garden and the whole vegetable garden, etc. And so what we have here is mint that's in front of us, and the tea that I'm drinking right now is actually from these plants. It's a mint tea that's very easy to make. And it's hard to see, but the bees are actually going into these flowers, these white flowers, and getting pollen, yeah, and nectar and things that bees need to feed their young and to have nourishment, etc. And so what we're going to have here is our 8th swarm this year from this hive. So from this one hive, we've basically created 7 more hives. And
so a swarm is like a colony.
Right, a swarm is a faction of a bee colony that moves away and creates a new home. But they'll probably go into a low rising bush in the yard, and where we can catch them and put them in a box and put them in a hive over in the apiary over here.
So you have this, and you have another sort of hive area that you keep out in the field that we'll look at also.
Right, about 200 feet away you can see we have a bee yard, a much larger bee yard.
Let's take a look at that.
Okay.
So this is kind of like your main hive area over here.
Yeah, so this is our main apiary. And we have a lot of different kinds of hives here. We do mostly research here.
Okay.
We're coming up with some different designs on different types of beehives. Over here we have one that's in a hollow log. The log came to the sawmill and it was hollow, and it was therefore not any good for lumber. Yeah. So I made a beehive out of it, and I put a frame down the top and made a beehive out of that, and that's worked very well. The beehive over here is called the top bar hive, which is very popular in other parts of the world, a lot less expensive.
Oh yeah, you can see all the bees.
You see all the bees on top of that hive, yeah, right there. And we have another top bar, and then these are Langstroth hives, the conventional beehives. But we do something unconventional inside them. We have a lot of top bars as opposed to full frames and foundations. So It's getting into a little bee jargon, but
Okay. And can you show us some of those, like the top bars and what they look
sure,
like?
sure. Yeah, I'd be
Okay.
happy to. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a window on the back of the hive, and we can go and take a peek in.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
He's got the hives up close like that. Yeah. That's cool.
Okay, what we have here, as you'll see, we have a lot of plants that are conducive to bees. We have apples and pears and all sorts of trees in the bee yard that are useful for the bees to get pollen, to get nectar, and these kinds of things. And and here we have what you saw there is there's a window on the back of the hive. Watch it. This is a miniature donkey.
He was very friendly.
Very sociable. Very sociable. Yes.
He's like, hey, pay attention to me. I'm over here.
And the reason I wanted to build the... Oh, no, don't do that. It's not a good idea. No, because the bees are going to get mad. Come on, let's go. So the reason I wanted to have a window on the back of the hive is because for children to see the bees, and for adults, because you really can learn a lot if you can see.
Right.
So I built this little door that goes on the back of the hive, and you can pull it off at any time and check your bees, inspect your bees without necessarily disturbing them.
Right.
And it's just a wooden hole. It's just a hole with a glass pane put in there, much like a window pane. And
just to see how they're doing.
just to see how they're doing without having to open the box up and disturb them.
Yeah.
You see if there's, you can see if there's pests. You can do a lot of health, a lot of health checks and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how often do you have to do that?
Well, it varies. Different beekeepers do it different ways.
Yeah.
But one of the things we wanted to use too was use aromatic woods. This is hickory.
Okay.
And the hickory is supposed to, like the white oak and hickory and cherry woods, are aromatic, and they're supposed to impart flavor to the honey. And so we've been experimenting, crossing sort of the wood with the honey production in order to come up with attractive combinations.
Okay. And is the whole box made out of the hickory, or
Yes.
is it okay?
The whole box is made out of hickory or cherry or various flavor-enhancing woods.
And you designed that yourself and built that yourself?
Yeah, that's an innovation that we. Well, actually, I took it from one of the other members of the bee club, a man named Matthew.
I see.
Yep.
And what we were looking at in that shot is actually what a bar hive looks like.
A top bar,
Okay.
yeah.
Top bar.
Yeah, instead of having a full frame, these are the things that slide in.
Yeah.
It's just a little top bar, and the bees make their own frame.
Okay. And are they always vertical like that, or
Yes.
are they? Okay.
They're always vertical. Yep.
Okay.
The bees know what to do. Yep.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
What's next?
I'll show you the shiitake production.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now, to the untrained eye, this might just look like an ordinary stump, but actually it's a shiitake log. You're growing mushrooms on these?
Right, yes. A lot of the wood that comes in is not suitable for making into lumber. It is suitable for firewood, but a higher calling would be to make food out of it. And the mushrooms that come off of this log taste better than it's just amazing how good it tastes. And it's because it's so fresh and so nourishing. But this log will produce 1/5 of its weight in food. And it's quite a heavy log. This is probably a 40-pound log.
Yeah.
And it'll produce maybe 8 or 10 pounds of shiitake mushrooms over the course of 7 years.
Wow.
And they taste absolutely divine. The family fights over them when I pick them off in the spring and the fall is when they come in.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to eat them. They're so good. They're just it's much better than buying them in the supermarket or anything,
Right.
because it's so fresh and so close. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that you'll find about growing your own food is the health factor is so important. It's not
Yeah.
about saving money. People generally that work have enough money to buy food and feed themselves, but the taste and the health effects are just
Yeah.
immense.
Yeah, and especially if it's grown in healthy soil, which obviously you have here.
Right.
And you said this is like alluvium soil that's been here for hundreds of years.
Right.
You know?
It's
And
alluvial
so
bottom soil. Right.
you really don't even have to amend it or add any kind of, teas, compost teas or anything. It's just already so rich.
Right. Right.
Plus you keep the plant biodiversity, which also reinforces that.
There's nothing but just chocolate soil all the way
Right.
down. Deep, dark, rich chocolate, about 6 feet down.
And so you don't even have to till or anything, because like
No.
you said, you're not compacting it, so you don't
Right.
have to worry about tilling it.
Right. And I'll show you a little more in the vegetable garden when we get over there.
Okay, and before we do, just tell me this: how do you get the shiitake started? Do you have to do an inoculant that you
Right.
put on the log? Explain
Right.
that a
You
little
have
bit.
you have to get the spawn. You order that, and you can get a pellet or a sawdust. And we drill holes. There's an inoculation site there.
Okay.
Drill a hole. You put the spawn in, and then you cover it with hot beeswax.
Okay.
Or any kind of wax.
Spawn is like what, a little liquid?
No, it's a sawdust that has the mycelium in it already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they just proliferate. That's it. You don't have to do anything else.
Right. Put it in the shade, but you have to put it close to the house so that when you're going back and forth, you notice the mushrooms. Otherwise, the squirrels will get them or the chickens will get them.
Okay, so you really got to keep an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to get there before they do.
You have to forage them, even in your own yard, because they are quite tasty.
Yeah. Competition is on for the good food.
Yeah. Now here we are in with the chickens, and as you can see, the Great Pyrenees dog there is barking at us, and he's getting our scent. See him sniffing the air, and he realizes who I am and what we're doing, and he's okay. But a few minutes ago he was barking quite loudly because his job is to protect the chickens, and he's very good at it. And over here, if we could walk this way, I'll show you the chicken house. And the design here is like a train. There are two cars. There's the car with the wire, which is their run, and then the big house, which is where they have all the nesting boxes. And this can be moved and skidded along on these little runners on the bottom. So it's a totally mobile operation. And we've had it here for a couple of years now. And it's also fed by these solar panels. It has electricity and a little lightning rod.
So the chickens don't peck at the solar panels?
Well, they sit on it and they roost on it, but the rains, will wash it off. And then in there we just have a really conventional chicken house, made mostly with conventional building materials of lightweight. We wanted it to be lightweight so we can move it.
Okay, and do you made that here with the untreated wood that you have? From
no, a lot of this was made with big box wood.
Okay.
Just it was a little before we had the sawmill going in full swing, and we didn't have a lot of inventory at the time.
How many eggs do you get? How many chickens do you have?
We have probably 30 or 40 now, and they're also out in this yard here, and we probably get between 2 and 3 dozen a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you sell any of them, or what do you do with all the eggs?
We have friends that come over and we share them with the friends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way to do it. And I heard you saying earlier that they actually lay in the field as well, so you have to go out and find them.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Easter egg hunt every day.
What do you feed your chickens, and where do you do
Well,
that?
we feed them like the sunflowers that we saw earlier. We feed them to the chickens, and then we give them just a lot of free range. Chickens like insects, so they like to be with larger animals. So we have them out here in the field, and then we do have some conventional grain that we feed them until we can come up with our own stocks of food. But we're working very hard to try to do that. It's very much in our interest to have our own food and be able to feed them everything from the farm.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it self-contained.
Right,
Yeah.
and sustainable, literally
Yes.
sustainable.
Well, everybody, we've been here talking to Paul Campanis. Thank you so much for giving us the
My
tour of your
pleasure.
farm. It's really interesting, and he's got so much going on here, as you saw. And again, the name of his business is called Permavations, and if you want to find out more, you can go to permavations.com. And you've got a lot of information about the different things we talked about, the bees and the chickens and the mycoboards and the woodworking. And so take a look there, and hopefully we'll get out to see you again next year.
I like that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure.
So let it begin right here, right now. Earth Revolution.